Welcome everybody. I'm going to make a quick video explaining population growth. So please follow along. Big part about learning about population is looking at how they grow, but also how they shrink. Today we're going to be focusing on how they grow. You probably have heard of overpopulation and why that is a big problem. We're going to be looking at why it is a problem, but why it's probably going to kind of fix itself actually. So if we look at what population growth was like throughout human history, it was really quite slow for the longest of time. Life expectancy was much lower. So like right now I'm 33. If I were back in the caveman days, I would be an old man. Most people didn't live that long. Lots of children were born, but most of those children would not live long enough to reproduce, to have children of their own. So birth rates and death rates were both really, really high. And that led to populations just remaining small and growing, but growing super slowly over time. So what I want you guys to do right now is pause this video. And I want you to go into the slides and I want you to watch this video. What it does is it shows you how population for the whole planet changed over the last, it starts about 2,000 years ago. And you're going to see that it was really slow. And then about 250 years ago, it changed drastically and it starts just kind of blowing up. So please watch that right now. And then you can come back and finish this video. All right, let's move on. All right, so as you guys saw, population for our species throughout most of history, for like 99.99% of human history, was really slow until about 250 years ago. And then we hit several revolutions, okay, that led to major changes for our species. First one was the Industrial Revolution. So you learned about this in your 7th grade history class. Hopefully you remember a little bit about it. But it's basically when we started to use fossil fuels like coal and oil and stuff, and new types of engines. We'd invented the engine for the first time, and so we can make machines that could do work for us. So the Industrial Revolution made it so that thanks to things like tractors and other machines, we were able to grow way more food than we ever were able to before. And with more food, you can support a larger population. It also led to really great advancements in medicines like vaccines, things like that. And that obviously lowers the death rate because it does, obviously. And the last one was improved sanitation. So we learned that we probably shouldn't poop near our water sources. We should probably take a bath. We should probably wash our food in clean water and stuff like that. And once we learned those little tricks about how to steer clear of germs, a lot less people were dying. So this led to the first boom in population. The second revolution we're going to talk about is what's called the Green Revolution. This took place in the 1960s, and thanks to some new farming techniques and some new technologies, we all of a sudden were able to grow way more food than we ever had been able to before. So we're able to use fertilizers, better fertilizers to make crops grow stronger and healthier. We're able to have high yield crops, which means we're able to get like an acre of corn to grow more food than it ever would have been able to before. And we also got better at using what's called pesticides. Pesticides are they're basically poisons that you spray onto plants. You can see a picture of a guy putting it on right here. And it stops little critters like rats and mice and bugs and stuff from reducing the yield that we get from crops. So it basically stops other little critters from eating the stuff so that we get more of it. Third revolution was medical advancements. So basically in the last 100 or so years, we've learned tons more about the human body than we ever knew before. So with new medicines and new nutrition guidelines and stuff like that, we were able to lower infant mortality rates. So we had less kids dying, and those kids could grow up to have kids of their own. We increased life expectancy, and we have cured what throughout most of human history were many deadly diseases. So the more children that we can stop from dying, the more they'll grow up and they'll have kids of their own. So again, that is going to add to that population boom. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to watch this video from the slides. It does a fantastic job of explaining what I just taught you, but in a really easy to understand way. So give that a watch. And now we're going to look real quick at why we learned, oops, why did it switch? There we go. We learned that a developing country, it's got that classic pyramid-shaped population pyramid. So you got a lot of young people, and they're going to grow up, and they're going to start having kids of their own. So we know when we see this classic pyramid shape, we know it's a developing country with really high birth rates. The question is, why do they have such high birth rates? And I'm going to give you a couple reasons why right now. First one is developing countries, remember, they have more jobs in the primary level of industry. So you're going to have a lot of people that make their living through farming. You're going to be growing as much food as you can, but it might not be more than you can really use to feed your family. If you're lucky, you have a bit to sell at the market, stuff like that. So if you have more children, you actually have more people to help you out on the farm, and that can help you be more successful overall. This is a sad way to look at it, but high infant mortality rates. If you have a feeling that one or two of your children might not make it to adulthood, it might drive you to have one or two extra children. It's a dark way to look at the world, but it's just kind of how big swaths of the developing world look at it. Third one is they have less access to birth control. There are ways to reduce the risk of someone becoming pregnant, and those tools are not easily accessible in a lot of developing countries, so they tend to have more pregnancies and therefore higher birth rates. So if we look at the opposite, so why do developed countries like our own have lower birth rates and like smaller families and stuff like that? There's a couple reasons. First one, in developed countries, most people live in cities, and having a large family when you're living in a city is very, very expensive. You need a larger apartment or a larger home. Food costs more, clothing is more, everything costs more. So if you want to have a family of 6, 7 children, you can do it, just going to be very, very expensive. Second reason why we have lower birth rates in developed countries is there is easier access to birth control. So people can kind of have a better chance of kind of planning how large they want their family to be. Third, and this is the most important reason I want you guys to know, it has to do with the amount of education that women get in developed countries. In a lot of developing countries, girls don't get a good education, unfortunately. In developed countries, again, like our own, women have much higher rates of education, and therefore they have careers, and they want to be successful in those careers. And being able to focus on a career while also having a lot of kids at home to take care of can be a challenge. It's doable, but it can be a challenge. So what a lot of women in developed countries choose to do is they want to be successful in their career, but they also want to have a family, so they'll have a smaller family, 1, 2, maybe 3 kids. And that allows them to find that nice balance where they can be really successful at both. Yeah, that's all I got for you for now. Have a good day.